Okay, good afternoon. My name is Susan Abravanel, and with me is Scott Gansky. Even though your screen says it's Amanda McDonald talking, it's neither of us. We know most of you, and we're delighted to see that you're on with us today. We're going to be talking about effective and sustainable school community partnerships. This is going to be an interactive webinar for us. And we're kind of new at this technology, so we're going to ask you all to bear with us. But the first thing I want you to do is to tell me by writing into the box that you see on the right side of your screen, what is your burning question for today? And what I mean by burning question is, what is it that is the most the one thing you really want to know about building school community partnerships. So if you can just write your question in the box, that would be really helpful, and we will go from there. So I'm getting a couple of questions from a number of you saying that you're having trouble hearing the session. And so if you can just let me know that you're going to be able to hear the session, that would be terrific. Okay, we've got a point from Donna, and Donna, yes, you can in fact chime in at any point that you do remember your question. We're going to be looking at that throughout. And the next question is about the employees, and you will not actually, this is for the Sodexo grantees, actually you'll be pleased to know, this is from Crystal Chapa, that reaching out to employees is going to be made very easy for you because Chandra Jenkins, who is our partner over at Sodexo, is going to be sending you a direct email along with a list of the employees in your community and their email addresses, a specifically personalized email for you. So that is going to become just a terrific resource for you. And that will be coming out within the next week or so from Sodexo. Ryan Miller has asked what's the best way of advertising what he's doing to many potential community partners at once. So we'll talk about getting the word out, and let's see, I think that's pretty much all the burning questions that we have at this point in time. So just to refresh everyone's perspective, we're all dealing from this particular frame of reference, and one of the things that I want to, I'm hoping that you can see the cursor, but really what we're focusing on is the relationship between the community partner and the teacher and the school, and that how the semester of service that you're doing can bring together the community partner and the school, and both of you have specific outcomes. And that's the thing to really remember, is that if you cover up the blue side of this slide, the slide that's got the teaching and learning and student achievement, and just focus in on the yellow slide, the reason why a community partner is involved in service learning is that they have a community need, a particular need that they want to have addressed, and use students to help address it, whether in the case of our semester grantees, that's an environmental need. In the case of our Sodexo grantees, that's a specific childhood hunger need. And they want to see an outcome that will, for them, define what a stronger community could look like. One that has less childhood hunger and one that has a better and more enhanced environment. And so that is what the focus is of the community partner. And we need to keep that in mind because that's not at all your focus. Your focus is in the blue side of this slide, which is the teaching and learning that you are inputting into your semester of service based on your particular curricular goals and your standards, outcomes, and so on. And what you're looking for is really student achievement. So I'm going to ask you to start inputting into the box again and talk about either from your experience, because we have a number of you on the slide who do have experience with this. How might a partnership benefit you? So if you could just start putting your answers into the box, either explaining how a partnership has benefited you already, or how you think a partnership might benefit you in if you are just beginning the process. So Colleen has answered that a partnership brings in volunteers, matching funds, and discounts, so your money may go further. So it really leverages your resources, and in many cases, we will find that the partner has already budgeted for the work that you need to get done, and so the partner can really take advantage of the additional manual help or the additional hands-on help that they're looking for. Sharonda has talked about a partnership bringing along expert advice, issue-focused advice, which is really helpful. Sonia Jones has talked about partnerships bringing collaboration where they have strengths that you do not. Partnerships can help you get the job done. And Crystal is talking about partnering with an area soup kitchen and how they are providing their particular students with the information about the needs in the community, and meanwhile the students are providing them with the service. So once again, the idea that the partner is a co-teacher in essence. It is an outside the school resource that is brought into the school and can help provide expertise and learning. Donna is talking about a specific kind of a partnership that I know she's been very successful with, and that is a university partnership. And she points out that a partnership with a local university can help engage students in academic achievement by modeling a possible future for the student, and also providing a sense for the student of what is ahead of them, and they're helping the students feel, even now in middle school, that they can go to college. And she also says partnerships can lead to additional grants. They can be a leverage. They can provide you with visibility. And partners can provide access to work sites and equipment that is not available under other circumstances. So just one quick example from Donna's resources, she's doing quite sophisticated water quality testing based on the materials, based on the equipment that she's getting from the lab at the university with whom she's partnering. Nancy Reagan is talking about a partnership that has already benefited them by partnering with an inn on Long Island, which is a soup kitchen and food pantry for the island. And the partnership brings in opportunities for the students to participate in programs and to develop other programs through their youth board. So it provides opportunities for students to have leadership. Boy, you guys are fantastic. Look at all these responses. Dawn is talking about partnerships, helping to spread the word about the efforts and interests of the students. Amy France says, I believe that we can learn from our partner about the needs. So once again, that expert who is very much focused on the issue that you're dealing with, and that students can gain positive attention in the community based on the work done within the partnership. Colleen talks about posting pictures of what your kids are doing. So this is a little bit of that recognition piece, that acknowledgement piece that is so positive for students, because as they see that partners are recognizing and rewarding and very much appreciating what students are doing, when someone says, gee, we really love you, it's just fantastic, it makes you want to do more. So it really remotivates the students to continue doing what they're doing. Colleen then goes on to say that they advertise what you're doing and they post pictures of what your kids are doing. And Donna again says that partners can also help a teacher build their own content area knowledge. Donna's had a couple of experiences of serving on boards that have come out of building her partnership, and so she's been able from that to expand her own knowledge in a particular area. So those are all the positive benefits. Now I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you've had in finding and working with partners. So once again, I'm going to ask you this time to think about what's hard about working with partners and what is frustrating and what hasn't worked. Okay, so from New York, we're hearing from Pamela Scott, who says that some partner organizations are functioning on a limited budget, and it's hard for them to volunteer 100% of their time to the project, and certainly we're going to see more and more of that. Colleen Quinn is saying that getting to talk to the person you need to talk to with funds being used up towards the end of the year. Yeah, this is a challenge, working your way through the bureaucracy. And what I can tell you is that partners think that schools are in enormous bureaucracy too, that they have trouble when they approach a school trying to figure out whom to talk to. Let's see, Nancy talked about connections that have been relatively easy to make, but sometimes coordinating schedules and activities can be difficult. And that is a big one, because partners don't know necessarily about the schedule of a school, and they operate on very different schedules. For many partners, they much prefer to do their activities, for example, on a weekend, on a Saturday, when it's impossible for you to guarantee or for you to commit students from a class into attending the project. Donna talks about coordinating and balancing time demands and timelines. The timelines of a partner and the school year, again, this is a similar kind of a concern that Nancy was raising. They don't always mesh. Sharonda talked about a city councilwoman who volunteered to partner, but now finds she's too busy and is inaccessible. And that's also a concern. Mary talked about her partner, which is a unique partnership. Her partnership is actually another school. And so my teacher at the elementary is where she was expected to be, so my students who tutor are ahead of the class. Annette talked about it being difficult to get partnerships that can work the same hours. So I'm hearing from several of you that the issue really is that scheduling one, the difficulty of building a schedule. So we're going to talk a little more about that later on in the session. I'll make a point of giving you some tips and tricks on that. Crystal's talking about working with middle school students during the school day, again, sometimes matching schedules. And Colleen is raising a really interesting comment, which is that some organizations don't want to work with middle school students altogether due to their age. Ryan Miller talked about community partnerships being plagued by lack of strong communication. People don't always think of contacting their partners with important information. Amy said she's worried about how successful her students will be in soliciting donations from local businesses for their community dinner. There may be some trouble, again, due to restrictions in financial problems. So I think what Mary's correcting us and saying that that her problem is that the teacher is not where she should be in her particular curriculum, and so it's making it difficult. Sonia Jones talked about being located in the same location of the partner. It's really difficult to do that, and so it's hard to get on the same page all the time. And Donna talked about once the partnership itself is established, it's difficult for the teacher and partners to even consider going separate ways. So you become codependent is what Donna says. That's a nice problem to have, but it is a problem. And Donna says as schools develop more community partnerships, the number of available partners have greater demands on them, and they don't have the capacity to assist. Lori Whittemore talked about being ultra-rural. Lori is in rural Arizona, in Concho, Arizona, and believe me, it is very much rural, having been there last year. It makes it really hard to find partners that will travel to her school. So lots of different challenges that you've all had in developing partnerships. So the next slide, we're going to talk about what does a good partnership look like, and then we're going to go back and see how we can deal with some of those challenges. So a service learning partnership needs to be mutually beneficial, collaborative, and to address community needs. Now notice that we're not saying specifically address school needs, which is an interesting note here. And that is that, yes, obviously you as the teacher need to address the school needs. But it's really important for you also to make a point of addressing those community needs. It's not only all about the student, and we'll talk a little more about that in a minute. So effective partnerships have a variety of partners, and that may help some of you who are very dependent on one partner and being frustrated by one partner. So I'm going to suggest you look for a variety of partners. It's characterized, a good partnership is characterized by frequent, regular, ongoing communication. So that requires establishing perhaps a regular meeting time or an opportunity, kind of when you have that first meeting, establishing a timeline that says, okay, so shall we talk monthly or shall we talk weekly for the next 3 or 4 weeks as we plan this project together? But having that frequent, regular check-in time so that you don't necessarily have to go tracking down where the partner is. It's really important for you and the partner to have a shared vision, common goals, and common action plan. And very often what happens is, as with any relationship, a partnership is based on expectations. I expect the partner to perform in a certain way. The partner expects me and my students to perform in a certain way. You need to get those vision pieces and goals and action plans out on the table and really just check in. Are we both talking the same set of expectations? Or are you making assumptions that I'm going to perform in a particular way, and I'm making assumptions that you're going to perform in a particular way, and we're really not communicating well with one another so that the expectations are different. An effective partnership has a shared understanding of one another's culture, assets, and needs. As the teacher, it is going to be up to you to help the partner understand what is the school culture, to help the partner understand, for example, that the school day is pretty structured, and that there are only certain times when this is going to work, and that you're ringing bells all the time and moving kids in and out. And so really needing to understand what is the culture and what are the premises on which you are establishing this program. It's also important for you to understand what the organizational culture is. And so I would suggest it's really important to have that discussion. Tell me what's most important. For example, I would ask you to say to the partner, tell me what's most important that you get out of this project. And tell me what it is that you're prepared to put into this project. And that comes into the assets and the needs, meeting the needs. And so, too, you can share with them what it is that you have as assets and needs to provide to the community. So if you would just take a minute, by the way, what are some of the assets that you as the school can provide to the community partner? So Laurie responds, we have able-bodied students ready to collaborate and work towards a common goal. And, you know, that is exactly what partners are looking for. Jane Yokoyama responds that volunteers, that the school can provide volunteers personal knowledge, a sounding board, and media within the school, newsletters, video, etc. Nancy Reagan talked about the energy of her students, manpower, ideas, networks to reach large groups of people through the families in the school district. So don't forget about that PR piece. That's an important piece throughout the community, using the school as a methodology. Annette Richardson talks about providing human resources, potential clients, and civil action citizens. Donna also talks about volunteers. Donna mentions meeting space. They have a wonderful school in Tacoma, and it can offer meeting space to the community. And the perfect communicators, in other words, the students, to pitch ideas to the adults in the community because, says Donna, parents listen to kids. Mary, in her particular project, what they can provide is one-on-one time with struggling students, and the student tutee hears it in a different way than they would hear it from a teacher. I'll just describe to you very briefly what Mary is talking about, because her project is a cross-tutoring project where her middle school math students are tutoring elementary school math students. And what's interesting is Mary's students are struggling themselves, but they are absolutely wonderful mentors for fifth grade students who are equally struggling, and both are succeeding. Pam Scott says she's in a centralized location in the community. She, like Donna, is also offering a community meeting place. And the young people also bring an excitement and a passion to the project. So you're capturing these wonderful positive things about your young people. Crystal says we can provide the community access with access to 1,000 students and their families who might be willing to volunteer or donate. So that, again, that access to lots of other potential volunteers is really important. Amy France talks about providing a positive community event. So really serving as a focus to bring together many different groups, and Amy is being specific about one of the important pieces of her project, which is bringing awareness to the needs of childhood hunger in the greater community, and also to donating funds raised to the local food shelf. So there really is that potential to have an impact on the program. Donna talks about long-term partnerships, interested in well-educated future employees, and that her project can help make this happen by improving engagement in the academic work at middle school, so that over the long haul, we're getting better educated students, and students who understand their relationship to having a responsibility for various community issues. And Sonia Jones talks about parents and partners and volunteers who can bring knowledge from a different viewpoint and expertise. The students bring the freshness and creativity that adults often lack. That's exciting. So I'm really glad you're articulating these points, because very often what happens is teachers will go approach a community partner and try to get the community partner on board by saying, you know, you could provide this for us, but they neglect to really articulate what it is that you as the teacher can provide to the community partner, and why it's really an opportunity for each seeing the other as a valued resource, because that's what a real partnership is all about. So an effective partnership is not one-sided, benefiting only the young person or only the community. And on the next slide, we're going to talk about how do we find out who are potential project partners in our community. And throughout this, I'm going to be directing you to a number of pages in the Semester of Service Strategy Guide. And for this particular one, I'm going to direct you to page 38, which is called Identifying Possible Community Partners. So you all should have the Semester of Service Strategy Guide, and just note that there are lots and lots of suggestions as to how you might find possible community partners in and around you to support your particular project. So now what I'm going to ask for is just a couple of really different ways that you've connected with a partner, or unique ways that you've connected with a partner. And if any of you have had an experience where your students have particularly brought a partner to your attention, write about it and I'll share it. So Pam Scott gave a shout out to YSI and said she met a new community partner there. It was a great networking opportunity. Thank you, Pam. That's what we're hoping to provide. And Sharonda Allen talked about one of her partners is in the building and works for Sodexo. So she's been able to meet with him periodically to discuss ideas for the culminating event. Sharonda, I'm going to ask you specifically after this webinar if you could let us know more about that. We have been asked by Sodexo. Sodexo is hearing radio silence on the engagement of their employees, and we know it's happening out there. So if any of you are working specifically with these partners already, please just drop us an email and let us know, because we want to encourage Sodexo and say, yes, it's happening. Crystal says she sent a letter home to parents, whoops, and asked for connections and help, and it was amazed at how many parents actually do have the connections and are willing to help. Donna shares with us that when a partner is deeply embedded in the activities of the community, they talk about their work with schools, and by word of mouth, new partners just seem to come forth and offer their services. So Donna says she's received unexpected funding and help from the city when she invited some new people to an event. Mary talked about a wonderful experience that is expanding her project. That because of the success that her students are having in the elementary school, the high school got wind of what her project was doing, and is now sending tutors down to tutor her 8th grade students. Let's see. Colleen talked about when I was out, I would talk to store managers. Our volunteer coordinator hooked us up with different groups. Some of our students' parents saw what we were doing and gave us various contacts. And Deborah Soroa talked about, by talking about the project to friends and people I meet, I get ideas and even introductions to people working in similar groups. Remember, I asked if any of you have kids who have provided you with partners. Okay, this is great. Laurie was in the, she's now repeating, she's a return grantee, Laurie Whittemore in Arizona, and talked about how much they learned last year from the struggles and challenges they had, and how by sharing some of the struggles and challenges they had, they got all sorts of offers of advice, and so probably new partnerships emerged because of that. So these are all new ways of thinking about partnerships. Okay, so moving on, we're going to talk about building a relationship, and I am going to suggest that there are a series of questions that you ask in the process of building a relationship. The first is, what do you want to know about the prospective partner? And I'm going to specifically ask that in all of these building the relationship pieces, this is not as much about you as a teacher as it is to engage your students directly in the process. So having your students consider these questions. What do they want to know? You know, you're going to be partnering with this organization. Have your students be doing some research and have them come up with a series of questions about what they want to ask the partner. We have one grantee who actually asked the partner, who before the partner came in to talk to the class, if the partner could provide a resume of the person who was coming in to talk, and then the students took apart the resume and built a series of questions about what it was that they wanted to know. They wanted to know further, so they almost developed like a little interview. The second thing that I think is important for us to consider in building a relationship is have your students begin to trace through what are the stages in the development of the relationship. And they're going to kind of look at you as if they're not really sure what you're talking about. So have them focus in on building a friendship. A new young person has come into the class and they want to develop a friendship with that new person. What are the stages in the development of that relationship? And then have them transfer some of that understanding of how to build a friendship and build a relationship where one person is sharing with the other, have them transfer that to their understanding of how they're going to work with the particular partner. I think it's really critical for both sides in a partnership to understand upfront what are the deal breakers. Several of you talked about scheduling. If you just can't work out that scheduling, then I really think that's a deal breaker. I think that's a point at which you have to say, sorry, this isn't going to work for us. If we can't come up with an accommodatable schedule, we're going to have to move on and find a different partner for whom it would work. Commitment. If a partner lets you down, doesn't show up, or if you don't show up when the partner is expecting you, that's a deal breaker. And so you need to identify, you know, early on in the conversations, you need to identify. This is all part of that discussion of what are my expectations. I'm going to expect that you're going to provide this, and I'm going to provide that. So another deal breaker, I experienced this as in my role as a community partner, was a school that sent me 90 kids, and I was the community partner. And the school had expected that we were going to have all the adults we needed to do a tree planting with these 90 kids, and we only had 3 staff to work with 90 kids. And the school had not bothered to send additional adults along with them. That was a deal breaker. We never wanted to work with that particular school again. So you understand something about what we're talking about with the deal breakers. Okay, so I'm going to suggest a little activity that you can even involve your students in doing, and it's called What's My Bottom Line? And you are going to have your students break out into teams of 4. And one student gets to play the teacher. They're going to love that one. Another student gets to play the role of the community-based organization partner. The third one plays himself or herself. He's the student. And the fourth one gets to play the funder of the project. And then you ask them each to think about identifying their individual bottom line. In other words, what would one outcome be that you would need to get from a successful experience? And by the way, I'm hoping all of your students understand now what the terminology of service learning is all about. It's something that is important for you all to explain to your students that they are participating not just in a project but in a service learning project. The reason I'm raising this is that when your students do their pre and post testing, the words service learning are on that test, and one of the comments early on in this whole program that came to us is that many times students are doing service learning, but when they're asked about their service learning experience, they don't know what they're talking about. In other words, they don't know how to answer it because it's not been identified to them. So please make sure you tell your students that what it is doing is service learning. Okay, so bullet 1, they identify their individual bottom line. Bullet 2, they go back and say, what do you want to know about the other? In other words, about the other 3 people in their little cohort. And then the last bullet, the last task there is that they need to figure out a way in order to meet everyone's bottom line and make it successful. So this will help your students simulate how a good and effective partnership should carry through. So I just want to remind you again that the Semester Service Strategy Guide with specific reference, pages 32 to 40, deals with community partnerships and has some additional tips and tricks for you there. And also bring to your attention a longer issue brief on building community through service learning, the role of the community partner. So this will help you understand how a community partner looks at being your partner, and kind of help you understand the culture on the other side. You certainly understand your school culture, but it challenges you as the teacher to be explaining your culture to the community partner. And a really wonderful resource that does that beautifully is this book that I'm showing you now. And it talks about the 3 priorities for the community partner, which are commitment, communication, and compatibility. And so what they're talking about there is commitment. I've just pulled some words out, and I'm going to give you some time to read what's on this slide. So, of course, you probably have gathered by now that one of the reasons I pulled these words out is that you are engaged in a semester of service, and I know many of you are engaged in even a longer period of time in almost doing this through an entire full year. But this actually shares with you that not only is that something of benefit to the learning community, but look at how the partner, the community partner, looks to having a longer-term commitment to service learning, that they too prefer the longer-term service learning commitment to the one-shot service learning project. So that's something that's really important to them. The second one is the issue of communication. We've done lots of talking about communication during this particular webinar and how important it is going back and forth to share expectations. And I just thought I would take a little humorous look at what communication is all about. And now we get to the issue of compatibility, which is the third C that is really important to the community partner. Again, I'm going to let you read through it. So for those of you who are looking to build a sustainable long-term partnership, or a sustainable partnership that you can come back to year after year, who will support you, remember that they are looking to have as much benefit from this project that will benefit the community or their particular issue as it will be of benefit to the student. Obviously, you as the teacher have your primary responsibility to providing a strong learning experience for your students, but in terms of engaging them in service learning, you also have to be very much aware that the community partner is going to look for a strong community benefit and just as valuable a strong community experience. So again, each values the other resources, and it quite literally has to be a win-win all the way around. So with that, we're going to take some of your questions. So once again, I'm going to focus in on that little box and ask you to post questions that you don't think have been dealt with, or that you would like to ask, anything you want. So Ryan Miller is asking, do you have any suggestions for communicating the ideas behind the Service Learning Project to non-English speaking students? Ryan is in Seattle at the Seattle World School, where he is working with students who are new immigrants or refugees to the Seattle Public School system. And he is engaging them in the Hunger Project. And Ryan, what I would say there to you, because Ryan is actually acting as a kind of the partner himself, what I would do is I would make sure that you try to relate this through reflection activities. You try to relate this to something that the students themselves can understand. And help them understand service learning from that perspective through the reflective process. Donna's being very nice and saying thank you to everyone for sharing. Amy France, can I repeat what I said about Sodexo Connections? Are we getting an email? Yes, you will be getting an email from us. I will be sending that out probably later, probably early next week by the time we get through to it. Sodexo will be preparing a specific email for each of you. You will get a heads up as to when it's coming, and the email will contain a list and email addresses of Sodexo employees in your area for you to connect with. Lori wants to know how to come up with how to approach another community partner even at this late date. Lori, you're early in the process, actually. So I think you have, you just go ahead and approach them and suggest that they come and talk with you and see how they might fit in with where you are. Pam Scott, when the students and I are working in the garden, many neighbors not connected to the school offer assistance or want to help. Do I have any ideas on about how to organize them? Yes, I actually do. Pam, one of the things that you may have in your neighborhood, I'm not sure, Pam is in Brooklyn, so, or I believe in Brooklyn, so one of the things that you may want to do is find out whether the neighbors are part of a neighborhood association. Very often there will be some kind of a neighborhood association. And that may be a good way for them to organize, or suggest that they form a little committee to be working with you as a school. Crystal is asking, what if our partners are not able to participate in an activity during the GYSD time frame? Is that a deal breaker, or can we modify the date to the week of April 20th? Crystal, go ahead. No problem. We are totally cool with that. Let's see, Donna, I would also suggest he talk to, this is probably for Ryan, to someone familiar with the culture of the students represented and determine what types of students of service might be common in the student's native land. Service is not the same in every culture. Really good point, Donna. And Donna brings up something that we have set up for all of you, which is our discussion groups. Yes? No? Okay. So Scott, I'm going to turn to Scott and ask him to explain the Google group.
Yeah, the Google group is an opportunity for all of you to share all of your ideas. Now that we're just, right after MLK here right now, we're going to start posting questions on there and ask for people to share different things different questions that we're getting from people, so that way we can share all of our best resources, and it gives you guys an opportunity to connect and network with one another.
Yes, we know that there is wonderful networking going on amongst you, and we really encourage you to sign up for the Google group. I'm going to ask Scott if he would please send out directions for signing up for the Google group in case any of you are not yet on it, because that's the best way to learn from one another. As I said at YSI, you are the experts in this project. They don't just live at YSI or YSA. Jane is asking, can community partners be private individuals? Yes, they can be. But again, you're going to need to define the expectations that they have of you and the expectations that you have of them, the resources they can provide, and so on. This is especially common. Jane, I'm sorry, I don't know where you are, but I'm not as familiar with your project. I'm sorry, where? Oh, Jane is in Alaska. Okay, so then thank you, Scott. That explains why the question. Yes, I was going to say, especially in rural communities, individuals step forward and are wonderful community partners. That's been my experience. Sharonda said, my biggest problem is that my district requires me to spend my own money first. Then they reimburse from the grants in order to get supplies for my project. Oh, my. Okay, Sharonda, if you can send us a note about this offline, I think we're going to try to see if we can unstick that logjam, because that's not exactly what we are hoping to have happen. Mary says, thanks to everyone. It's exciting to hear about what you are all doing. Have a great semester. And Ryan says, thank you to Donna for a really wonderful suggestion to her. And Ryan, Tacoma's not that far away either. Any other comments? Will this PowerPoint be available for us to view again? Says Crystal and Scott.
Yes, we'll be posting it on our website, and I will be sending a link out to everyone as soon as possible. This will be actually by next week. We'll have that out to everybody.
And Jane also has the same problem that Sharonda is having about her district. If any of you are having this problem, because that was absolutely not the intent that we have with the grant, please send us an email, and we'll try to do what we can to work through your process. And with that, let's see, I'm going to give you another minute or two for last-minute questions. Okay, well, thank you, everyone, for being such wonderful participants in this webinar. It's been just a delight to connect with you this way, and you are just fabulous resources back and forth with one another.